You are listening to X-Wing Radio.
Welcome back, all you Imperials, Rebels, and Moisture Farmers. I'm David, that's Wesley, and you just tuned in to X-Wing Radio, your weekly broadcast from a galaxy far, far away.
Well, it's supposed to be weekly. Obviously, I am aware of our numbers, but obviously we did not post last week. So for anyone who was missing on that, we apologize. Thanksgiving weekend all threw off some things. That being said, we are getting into the holiday season, so this will actually be our last episode of the year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we will be back the 1st of January. I think the first Monday in January is what we've planned on.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the ground running and be going from there. But for the next probably
And
about two weeks or so, we'll be
2 or
off.
3 weeks, we'll be off. We're also probably going to be making some changes to our scheduling. I know we've talked about going bi-weekly, and so
Mhm.
we're probably going to end up doing that starting the first of the week. Um,
First of the
so
year.
we're still working out some of the kinks on that, but probably just for y'all's reference, probably what's kind of happening is we're gonna end up going bi-weekly with slightly longer episodes.
We will be letting you know what exactly we'll be doing in our first episode of the new year. We will have everything worked out by then. And yeah, but that is not what we're here to talk about today. We are not going to sit here for probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half, talking about changes we're going to be making. We're here to talk about Star Wars, kinda. So, David, what are we talking about today?
I don't know. I was hoping you would remember.
Well, okay, so like Star Wars, kinda, we're talking about it's obviously the holiday season, so we're talking about the holiday special. I'm kidding. We didn't want to put ourselves through that again. No, we're actually going to be talking about the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special that they made.
Hmm.
It's not the holiday special, the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special.
See, I
Right.
kept wanting to in my head, I kept calling it the Phineas and Ferb Holiday Special, even though that's not what it is. And
Yeah.
they've done Christmas episodes on Phineas and Ferb. No, we're talking about the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special. Right off the bat, I rewatched this earlier today. This is
I just
actually a
got finished
lot.
watching it. I just got
Yeah,
finished watching like an hour ago.
yeah. This was a lot funnier than I remember.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of moments that are like legitimate laugh out loud moments. Like I mean, you know, I maybe am just a little loopy. I'm in a normal state of loopiness. But that being said, I mean, it's still a lot of moments that I find to be rather funny.
Mm,
Jokes at the expense of the original movies, jokes in general. There's a bunch of just different things. I mean, Phineas
mm,
and Ferb is a great show. I mean, probably one of the best shows like ever, to be honest, kid show or otherwise. And
mm.
I mean, they just made a Star Wars movie, so you know.
And it's definitely stays true to a lot of that classic Phineas and Ferb humor.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
because let's be honest, like I don't know, it's been a while since I've watched anything Phineas and Ferb. Like remembering back on it, a lot of Phineas and Ferb is actually genuinely funny. Like not
oh yeah,
even just for kids, it actually is genuinely funny. Um,
yes,
and again, it reflects it in this. Um, but it's also Star Wars too, which is like
hmm.
really fun. And I know,
And not to
I'm
jump around too
probably,
much, not to jump around too much, because obviously we should go through the main storyline for it. But uh, like you said, it's Phineas and Ferb, but it's also Star Wars, and that last fight didn't have to be that good. I mean, I'm not saying it was, uh it was the Duel of the Fates or Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Revenge of the Sith, but it was pretty. I mean, hey, it was better than
Mm,
the sequel. Okay,
yeah.
so I know that's a low bar, but
So starting off with just kind of a little bit of I guess behind the scenes for this. A lot
mhm,
of this from my source for this, I'm gonna cite Dan Povenmire's doc, YouTube, whatever whatever. Go watch him. He's actually really funny. He has a lot of cool tidbits about making Phineas and Ferb. But
yeah,
so his story about this. So when he was a kid back in the '70s, obviously Star Wars was a big thing for him. He was a kid when the first Star Wars movie came out. He saw it in theaters.
yeah,
So obviously, he grew up loving Star Wars. And then in 2012, when the Lucasfilm deal closed, apparently that was the first thing uh, Dan did when he heard about that. Is he drew a picture of Doofenshmirtz wearing a Darth Vader helmet and sent it to Bob Iger, the head of the studio, who I think is the head of the studio now again.
yeah. He's been
He
it
hasn't
twice.
been he hasn't been this whole time, but I think he's the studio head again. Uh, we're not here to trash on Disney because this is actually a good Disney project, so I'll leave that aside. But
Yeah,
my feelings about Bob Iger aside, but um,
he made
he sent
one
it to
good
Bob.
decision.
Yeah, he sent the this picture to Bob Iger, and Bob Iger was like, "Yeah, we'll have to do something about that." So obviously, 2 years after this, we get a Phineas and Ferb Star Wars special
Now,
in
real
2014.
quick, um, one second.
So technically, this was the first thing. I want to say this was the first thing Star Wars that Disney made. 'Cause this was 2014. That would have been a year before Force Awakens.
Yeah. Well, let's ask this question. When did was Clone Wars done airing at this point? Because I know that it was around this
So,
time that Clone Wars. So, did any Clone Wars come out under the Disney era and then it
so
stopped?
Clone Wars. Okay. Um, let me make sure I'm remembering everything. So, season 6 of the Clone Wars was finished and had not aired in 2016. I'm sorry, not 2016, 2012, when the Lucasfilm uh, purchase happened. So,
Sad.
so
Good.
20, so season 7 or season 6 was finished, had not aired. Um, season 7 was in the works. That's where like Dark Disciple and some of these other like canceled arcs come from. That's
Yeah.
the canceled season 7 after the Disney deal. And I believe it was in 20. It was either late 2012 or 2013. Season 6 went straight to Netflix. I think Netflix
Okay.
might have been might have even finished some of the animation because I want to say like season 6 was close to being finished or was finished when the Disney deal went through, and they were in the early stages of season 7.
Yeah.
Um, so
The
Disney
reason I
obviously
asked.
canceled.
Good.
So Disney obviously canceled all that because it would have gone on a. It was on a competitor's network. It was on Cartoon Network, which is a competitor to Disney Channel.
The
Yeah.
reason I asked was because one, you brought up this being the first thing Disney made, which it would have been the first thing for the timeline that we've created here. First thing that they actually created. Um, but the reason I was asking about that is because I do remember hearing some talks in some interviews or podcasts or whatever with Dave Filoni talking about when Disney bought Lucasfilm and how
Mm,
they were real sure what was going to happen with what they were doing currently.
mm.
And
So,
that's
I,
why that was in my mind.
okay, I will amend my statement about it being the first for just a second because I need to check something. Rebels also first aired in 2014.
True.
So let me make
The date here for Phineas and Ferb Star Wars is July 26, 2014.
okay. Rebels was October 1st, so Phineas and Ferb still beat out Rebels.
There we go. So we got the first Disney Star Wars project. And hey, I mean, Rebels was pretty good. I know of people who didn't care for
Okay,
Rebels.
it's
Um,
yes, Rebels is very like Disney Channel esque, but
yeah.
it's still a Filoni show. Um,
And then they kind of just went downhill from there. But to not get too far onto the tangent that is Disney Star Wars, David, we're gonna do it again. Let's hop back
let's
into this.
let's actually we've
Now,
already
I
spent
want
like 10 minutes off topic, so let's actually go on topic
I want to talk
here.
about this. I want to talk about this. So there's been a lot of parodies of Star Wars, right?
Mm,
We talked about one a week or two ago with Spaceballs, right? Uh, and that was a parody of Star Wars, but it also took inspiration from other sci-fi, whatever, yada yada. Anyways, there's been other things as well. One that sticks out in my mind is the parody that Family Guy did of A New
mm,
Hope. So in that one, they kinda, in their own way, do a take on A New Hope. They kind of redo it.
mm.
What I find interesting about this one here is that it actually follows in step with A New Hope.
Yes,
Like,
so the
and
events,
it even takes some beats where it's like what we saw in A New Hope, they might be doing too, but the events are happening side by side as opposed to
yeah,
them being in their shoes.
yeah. So the events of A New Hope are happening in the background of this. Like we see so many different instances. So why don't we go ahead and just kind of start off with the premise of this? So it actually starts off again. This was 2 years before Rogue One, Star Wars story.
Yes, yes. Bef- You're getting to it. You're getting to it. I hope at least.
Mm.
Should
So
I
we
just say what I
start
want
off.
to say?
So we start off with well, obviously an opening crawl, which they do a bit with this about because they actually have a narrator reading the opening crawl, and they have a whole bit with this. Anyway, Phineas and Ferb humor again. Um, the opening sequence to this is actually Barry the Platypus, who is apparently a rebel agent, uh, stealing the plans for the Death Star.
Um, so David, what I was getting at here, you talking about this being 2 years before Rogue One came out, right?
Hmm.
This, who builds the who invented the Death Star? It was Doofenshmirtz. And why does it have a self-destruct button on it? Because Doofenshmirtz puts a self-destruct button on everything. It all makes sense. Like, I love Rogue One, but this is now my headcanon. It was supposed to be a nutcracker, right? Right? That's what he said. And then
Yeah.
they made it into this, death machine. But no, like honestly, like I don't know. Obviously, okay, so this would have had to been in the works ahead of time. Well, not necessarily would have had it in the works ahead of time. I don't know how far ahead of time they had been working on ideas for Rogue One.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't know, like Dan Pogmeyer and Swampy Marsh. What's his actual name?
Jeff Marsh.
Jeff Marsh. I don't know, what talks they could have had with people who might have been working on Rogue One, you know, but however it works, I love the fact that they explain who built the Death Star, explain why there's a self-destruct button on it, and like all these little details. I'm just like, yes, this is my headcanon now. Doofenshmirtz made the Death Star, or at least built the plans for the Death Star.
Which, yeah, it's it honestly does make a lot of sense the way they explain it.
Yeah.
Which I guess we'll get to that once we get to that point in the story. But so obviously, Harry the Platypus steals the plans of the Death Star, brings them to the Tainted Four, and then we proceed to get the intro to A New Hope, essentially.
Hmm.
We all know how A New Hope starts. And then we drop down to Tatooine, where we find out that Phineas and Ferb are actually, their family are moisture farmers, and their farm neighbors the Skywalker farm,
Yeah.
and they're friends with Luke, which kind of interesting when you think about it, because Luke is like, you know, 19 or 20, and Phineas and Ferb are like, you know, 7 or 8.
Okay, but
But
that being said too, right? So not to jump ahead again, but you're talking about age, right? So Isabella plays the Han Solo-esque character in this story, okay? Because
mm,
while they're happening side by side, they still have characters that fall in step with the characters from the original movie.
yeah.
But she plays the Han Solo style character, right? And there's a moment later on in the movie when she's at the rebel base right before on Yavin 4 and all that stuff, where the Fireside girls come up to her. They're part of the Rebel Alliance, and they're like, "Yeah, we're real desperate for good pilots. Like, we're kids over here, and we're fighting. Like, we're legitimately like frontline fighters here. That's how desperate we are, and all." And so, but the thing is like, all right, Isabella? Is she actually a kid? Like, is she supposed to be a kid here? Like, yeah, Phineas and Ferb are supposed to be young, but like they make the reference that they're actually kids, like kids. So is
Mm,
Isabella, who's on her own, supposed to be a kid as well? Are Phineas and Ferb over here supposed to be actual kids as well? I mean, obviously, I understand how the show works, but to that point, like, Isabella's over here in a bar drinking a juice pouch, but it is still Disney Channel, so
mm. Now, one of the throwaway lines that actually got me, like the laugh and the jokes, was when so they had the whole opening sequence with Phineas and Ferb on Tatooine, and showing that they're still up to their contraptions and stuff, and then they go
yeah,
home and have lunch with um the mom and dad from Phineas and Ferb, and uh parents are trying to like, oh, are you sure you don't want to go off and see the galaxy and all this stuff, and they're like, no, we're happy here. And the one line that got me is, uh, what's the dad's name? I forgot. I already forgot.
Flynn Fletcher.
Yeah. Um. But
It has been a while since you watched it, hasn't it?
it's the only name I'm actually blanking on. Like the mom's Linda. Yeah, I know all the names, but anyway, he makes this throwaway line like, after they leave, like they said they don't want to go anywhere other than Tatooine. And he makes this line. He's like, just wait till you find out there are no girls on Tatooine.
Yep.
That one
Yep.
got me.
Yeah.
Uh,
I will say, like, that's one thing that I've noticed a lot more recently. So, like, maybe I think it was before Ellie was born. So about a year ago now. But me and Sarah were doing a watch through of Phineas and Ferb. And we were watching through it, and there were a couple times we would sit there and stop and stare at each other and be like, "Did we both just hear what we think we heard?" I think I took a video of one instance of this and sent it to you because it was so out of pocket and like a joke that you would think shouldn't be in a kid show, and it was there very subtly. And I was like, "Wait a minute, did I actually hear that?" Phineas and Ferb is riddled with jokes, and not all of them are like bad or dirty or anything like that, but jokes that you won't get as a kid,
yeah,
and it's
there are a lot.
always funny to be able to
Yeah,
pick up on those. It's
yeah.
very funny to pick up on
There's a
those.
lot of jokes that like kids not going to get, but there's a lot of. I don't mean this as inappropriate to 30. but there's a lot of
Yeah.
adult jokes in Phineas and Ferb. Again,
mean,
I
there
don't
are
mean that
some.
as like
There are some of those,
yes,
but
yeah,
not all of them are.
I don't mean it as strictly that. I just mean jokes that there's jokes that are in there for the parents, not for the kids. You know.
Yes. Yes, exactly. All right, so, well, we need to also address another side of this story that we are going to be following. So, the Phineas and Ferb are obviously the main characters that we're following through this, and they are let's see, what are they doing specifically at the beginning of it? I know the main point of the whole movie is that Phineas and Ferb are trying to get the Death Star plans to the rebellion because I think R2 dropped them or someone dropped them and they found them.
So
And they're like, "Oh no."
okay. Well,
Well, I was gonna say
first off,
we
we did
also
miss.
need to address Candace, Buford, and Baljeet
So
is what I was
we did.
getting.
They introduced that on the whole Tainted Four thing, which we did miss.
Yeah.
So basically, Candace, Baljeet, and Buford are all stormtroopers.
Yeah. And Candace wants to
And
bust the rebels.
Yeah.
As you do.
But her commander, keeps assigning her to like these, basically like, you know, joke missions.
Yeah.
Like doesn't actually think
Errands.
she's errands. Yeah. So the one that he sends her on at the beginning of this is to go buy Darth Vader's socks.
I mean, everyone's got to wear socks, even Darth Lord of the Sith.
Yeah. So that's kind of where she's at.
Why
But
would he
she
need
keeps
socks? He has metal feet.
stumbling upon the Death Star plans the rebellion has stolen. So we'll come back to that plot thread. But on Tatooine, so Harry is tasked with getting the droid carrying the Death Star plans to Ben Kenobi. So at night, Tatooine, he's the one that goes into the barn there on the Skywalker farm and takes R2D2 off into the Dune Sea to go find Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
Well, he ends up. How does this sequence go? I think he ends up accidentally pushing R2D2 off a cliff, and R2 falls into Phineas and Ferb's sand speeder.
Yeah. He falls into like a birthday cake. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. He gets off on this whole tangent with the sand people. Yes, he falls into a
Either way,
birthday cake, and it has to
they
make
get
them another
split up.
birthday cake. Yeah.
Yeah. Either way,
And
they get split up.
R2 drops the plans for the Death Star in Phineas and Ferb's speeder.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah. So that's how they end up with the plans. And then of course R2 goes back off by himself. A New Hope, Luke and
Takes place.
C-3PO go looking for him, find Ben. We all know A New Hope.
If we don't, we better. Because that made sense. Shut up, David. All right. So they find the DVD in their back seat, and so what they try to do is they go off to
That's
find
also another.
them
That's also another thing.
in
That's
Moscow.
yes.
Go
But
ahead.
that's also
What
another
were you
thing
saying?
that's funny. That's also another thing that's funny is the Death Star plans in this are an actual CD.
CD. Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. So and the funny thing too is like it's a CD, and it looks like I know you know obviously what I'm talking about. Most people probably know what I'm talking about. But like if your parents ever like burn a CD and they took one of those discs or whatever, burnt whatever they wanted onto it, and then wrote on it so they knew what it
Mhm.
was. Like that's what
Yeah.
it looked like. Like it looks like the so it's one of those types of discs too, which is funny. But anyway, so they go and they're trying to chase after R2D2 to give them the plans. But when they get to Mos Eisley, they get there too late, and the ship is already Millennium Falcon's already gone. So they got to go into the cantina there and find a pilot, which is when they stumble across Isabella. Actually, back up a couple steps. They are being chased. They do end up getting chased because they go. Is that supposed to be Watto
No, that they called him Otto with a B, but
with a
it's
P? Okay.
he's still what a transgender. No, it's not
Tran-
transgender. Whatever
Try.
they are,
I'm a Tridar. A Troy.
Tridarian,
What is it? Yeah.
Tridarian. That's it. Yes,
What is it? Is it a T?
Transocean is something else. Tridarian. Yes.
Isn't I'm confused. Yes, I'm on the right path though. All right. Anyways, but they're in the middle of like a marketplace, and he goes and shoves it into this little display, like it's like an R2D2 head or whatever, and like displays this whole big Death Star up in the map. And Candace and Buford and Baljeet come out of the sock store, which is what's it called? It's called Paul, Darth, and Handsome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's obviously where Darth Vader has to shop at, or has exclusively gets his socks from. But they go and they get the socks, and then they see that and they're like, "We got to get the Death Star plans."
And don't forget, Buford got a hoagie roll.
Oh, he got a hoagie roll. Yes, and both items are in a brown paper bag. That's information. There's no joke there. Okay. I don't know. So, anyways, they go and they run away, but then they also have to go get a they have to find a pilot, which is when they stumble across Isabella. Now we're all caught up.
So they get Isabella's help, and apparently we find out that Isabella almost ran the Kessel Run in 11 parsecs, but was cut off by Han Solo.
I don't know if I want to go down the rabbit hole that is that. Okay, so people who don't understand this, okay, the Kessel Run is a measurement, not a measurement. Parsecs are a measurement of distance, not time. So when they say that they made the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, the reason that that's such an amazing feat is because you have to go a certain path. And the fact that he got through it quicker means that he had to go through. Think of it this way. If you're in a maze, right? There's only one path from the outside to the inside, presumably, for a regular maze. What he did was he ran through the hedges. Essentially what he did.
Or if you think of like a corn maze, went through the corn stalks instead of the actual trail. Yeah.
Exactly. So, instead of walking 20,000, why am I going that high? And instead of walking 100 steps, right, he does 20 straight through the middle. That's what this is. Now, I guess technically she could have gotten cut off. But anyways, off the tangent, that is the Kessel Run. We go from there. She doesn't like Han Solo. She has beef with him, which I don't really think comes up too much later on. But anyways, she doesn't like him too much. She's just basically showing that she's an outcast and doesn't really like anyone. So then we move on. They go to get on her ship called the Chihuahua. So you got the Falcon and the Chihuahua. For personal reasons. Don't ask too many questions.
And then of course, after Candace, Baljeet, and Buford lost them, they return back to their commander, and Candace delivers the socks.
Which, to go ahead and tie up the socks tangent that we're on over here, they Candace, Baljeet, and Buford are about to get on the transport that's going to go back to the Death Star, which I don't know why it's going from Tatooine to the Death Star, but anyways. But they're told they have to take the public transportation because obviously there's public transportation from wherever to the Death Star.
Again, the shuttle makes a little more sense. The public transportation.
Yeah. So,
Like,
anyways, they have to ride the bus back to the Death Star, basically. And on the bus, Buford goes to eat his hoagie roll, and well, he puts a sock in it.
yeah.
It's a
So
dumb joke, but I had to make it because it was there. I didn't have to make it. I know I
so
probably
yeah.
shouldn't have made it. Oh well.
So
Life's a
yes.
short decisions.
Candace gave
Life choices made it.
Commander the wrong nondescript uh brown paper
Oh
bag.
yeah, yeah. That's why it's important. Coach, we come
Yeah.
back to that later. And so
Yeah.
then we cut to a scene of Vader, and it's like they don't really. Well, they do show Vader at one point when Doofenshmirtz is trying to talk to him. But this is a picture. Like this is his like lower half feet. I don't know, whatever. But you can see the commander in the background, and he's choking. And he says, "I find your lack of socks disturbing."
I mean the hoagie rolls in the foreground on the floor,
Yeah. That too. That too.
which that'll
Um,
come back later.
that will come back to yes, come into play later. So anyway, so now we got everyone going towards the Death Star.
Well,
Um,
since we're at the Death Star now, who else do we meet on the Death Star?
you know what? We actually get to meet the maker of the Death Star, which is pretty cool.
Oh, really? Who made the Death Star?
What are you, an idiot? I spent like 5 minutes at the beginning of this talking about how much I loved it. Doofenshmirtz. Actually, it's
Darth and
Darth
Schmerz.
Smirch. I'm sorry, Darth Smirch. Tongue twister over
The
here.
the least of the Darths.
The least of the Darths. However,
He wants to be the
that's
greatest of the Darths.
but we'll get to that later.
Or the
Um,
best of the Darths. Yeah.
the yeses, not the knowest. Um,
Yeah.
he made the Death Star, but he didn't plan on it being so big because if it's so big, I mean, it's not gonna crack the nuts. It's gonna obliterate them because it's
I
supposed
mean,
to be a
that
nutcracker.
would obliterate. I mean, the size they built it, that would like obliterate a nut the size of a planet. Like,
Yeah.
hey,
On
hey,
another terms,
but
my condo in Alderaan is coming up in price. This values it's going up. It's crazy. I should probably do something about that. Hey, wait a minute. Going down to zero.
you beat me to it. I was about to make that joke.
Uh, yes. Well, David, don't worry.
Oh,
Your condo on Alderaan is also worthless.
uh,
Yeah.
you know, someone ought to actually make a company that sells condos and Alderaan.
Uh, that would be a big scam that would probably pay off for a lot of Star Wars fans.
I mean,
Lousily spending their money.
I mean,
People buy
I mean,
stars.
people buy stuff in Alderaan places all the time. So
David, you can't hit me with the puns like that because that makes me want to hit you.
I can tell that one physically hurt you.
Yes, yes, I'm in pain currently. All right, so everyone's on the
Okay,
Death Star
so
now. Well, actually, they're not on the Death Star now.
well, first of
Back
all,
up a little bit.
what is Darth and Schmertz's plan right now? What is he building?
Well, so he's building a Inator, obviously.
Hmm.
That is supposed to be used to shoot him. Well, back up. It's supposed to be able to take the force and turn that and hit him and make him the bestest Darth. But he's a little bit lacking in the Force area, so he wanted to get Vader to help him, but Vader obviously wasn't going to help him with that. So what he does is he goes and gets Vader's trash, because obviously, as we all know, your trash resonates your Force.
So
Hey, don't question it too much. I found it on Google.
fair enough.
The internet is never wrong. Stop questioning it. So, anyways, his plan is to shoot himself and become the yesest and not the knowest.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. Yes.
Oh. Oh, my bad.
He's the yesest, not the most.
The
But
bestest, not the slowest. Fastest, not the
yeah.
broest.
But now we turn our attentions back to Isabella, Phineas, and Ferb. And again, this is another one of these like it's not even a joke, but it's just another one of those moments. It's like kind of an interesting thing in a kid's show because it's like Phineas makes the comment of like uh Ferb like what do you think, Ferb, a guy like me and a girl has to it's
Yeah, I find it funny because, the thing is, too, is obviously it's typically Isabella, but
mm,
there are times in some of these, like, one-off things that they do for Phineas and Ferb that sometimes Phineas is the one that's like, I'm interested. And here it is, very briefly. They show the romance. They show I was about to say love triangle, but there's no triangle there. It's just connection.
yeah, there is a triangle. There's Phineas's head. You set it up, okay? Ugh. Mm.
I think I'm done with the
Anyway,
picture.
I think I broke Wesley with that one.
I don't
Anyway,
want to talk to I don't want to talk to you anymore. You know what? I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm gonna talk to them. The one or two people listening. All right,
okay,
David.
fair enough.
Go ahead and go ahead and sum up the rest of where we're at. Whatever. I don't care. Do whatever you want.
Okay. So, yeah, they land on the Death Star. Well, actually, to get on the
Now,
Death Star, so, they get stuck in the tractor beam. So, they disguise themselves as a donut truck.
oh, donuts.
I mean, you want your delivery, don't you?
I want my delivery.
Yeah.
Go to the delivery bay.
Yeah. Also, I like the fact that the meter for the tractor beam is an actual tractor. Like
Yes.
a picture of an actual tractor. Um,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
That's what everyone was
So,
thinking.
so they get onto the Death Star and they run into Perry the Platypus, which apparently Phineas and Ferb know Perry. How do they know Perry?
Well, obviously, he was their pet until they found out that he was actually a secret agent for the Rebel Alliance.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, obviously, when they found out, he had to go and do stuff.
Mhm.
makes perfect sense. But even though they're on the Death Star and they both have their own missions they have to do, no. Even though they're both on the Death Star, they both have their own missions to do, so they have to go their separate ways. But they wish each other really good luck.
Hmm. Yep. But Perry the Platypus quickly goes to, you know, foil Arthenschmerz, foil his
We
plans.
forgot to mention this. We did forget to mention this earlier. It's a very minor detail, but the reason that Perry is on the Death Star currently, because technically his goal, his past mission was to only get R2 from to Ben Kenobi. So his mission was complete for that one. But once he got done with that mission, I don't know if they
Major
have an
hologram.
actual major hologram. I was about to ask what it actually was.
Yeah.
Major hologram comes up and says, "Hey, go on vacation. You deserve it." And then comes back on and says, "Actually, hope you enjoyed your vacation because now we have another mission for you. You need to go stop Darth and Smirch." So that's why he's on the Death Star currently, because he's going to stop Darth and Smirch. As always, Perry has to stop Darth and Smirch. So
Yes.
he goes on his way to do that, and Phineas and Ferb go on their way to get the Death Star plans back to R2 and the Rebels. Well, technically not the Rebels; they're just R2 and Luke, whatever. But on the way there, Ferb feels a disturbance. Harry is in trouble, and he needs to go save him.
Yes, because Perry the Platypus, as always, breaks into Darth and Schmertz's lair and lands right on the big red X on the floor. I mean, it's human nature, or I guess in this case, platypus nature.
Until just now, I hadn't thought about it. So in this movie, obviously, the way the characters kind of lay out is Isabel is the Han Solo character, like we've mentioned. Phineas is the Luke character, and then Ferb is the Obi-Wan character. Okay, that's how they played out specifically on the Death Star. Specifically on the Death Star, that's how their roles play out. Now, when Ferb inevitably, when he goes to help Perry, he ends up getting shot with the evil
Sithinator.
Darth, the Sithinator. That's what it's called, the Sithinator. When he becomes the Sith, the bestest Sith, who does he look like?
Well, obviously, the best Sith. Maul.
Think about that, right? He's the Kenobi character, and then he turns into the Darth Maul character. It's the yin and yang. Literally, I was just thinking about that, and I was like, I mean, I hope that was planned. It probably was, and I'm stupid to just be thinking of it now or figuring it out now, but still really cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, Ferb goes off to help Perry. Perry gets frozen in carbonite. But his eyes can still move.
I mean, when
So
Doof gets frozen in, or Darth, when Darth and Schmartz gets frozen in carbonite later on, he can still talk. So it must be a weaker brand of carbonite.
I mean, it's probably something Doofenshmirtz invented, an off-brand of sorts. But I was thinking about it because it was really funny. But Doof is in there monologuing to Perry, and it's only him, Perry, and Norm 3PO. Norm can talk, but he doesn't talk a whole lot. So this whole entire area of time is filled by Doofenshmirtz talking. Like, it's funny because like when you're listening to it, if you listen close, it doesn't sound like he really takes a breath. He just talks from thought to thought to thought to thought to thought. And honestly, like it's so funny to listen to because like you know that Doofenshmirtz is just one of those people I mean, because they show it in the show time and time again. He's one of those people who there can't be silence. He has to talk through the silence.
Yeah.
And
So
not only can there not be silence, he has to be the noise.
yeah. So Doofenshmirtz's plan, which he lays out in all this monologuing, is to hit Harry with the Syphinator first,
He
and
doesn't
then
want to
hit
get
him.
disarmed or burnt or have to wear a mask or
Yeah.
anything.
And then
Or
he'll hit
die.
himself with. Then he'll hit himself with it. Because he wants to. He wants to become the Sithiest Sith of them all. But he also wants to have someone to be a Sith with.
Exactly. So right before, as we've mentioned, right before he's about to hit Perry with it, Ferb walks in, he sees what's about to happen, he pushes the carbonite frost thing out of the way that has Perry in it, and gets shot with the ray. Now, obviously he's going to have a headache when he wakes up, but he's going to be really, really Sithy.
So how does this affect the Doofenshmirtz plan?
Oh, not at all. It's just going to end up being him, Perry, and the kid.
They're gonna be
The three musketeers.
What about Norm 3PO?
He can be the horse,
Yeah. Okay.
which
Um.
I don't know why they only ride
But
one horse. I guess he has a rather large horse, but
the Sythinator is now cleared of almost all of its force power, so they need to go to the trash compactor and get more trash out of it.
yeah, well, never mind.
Yeah, so they go get more, or Doof goes to get more trash. What? I forget what the name of the trash compactor monster is.
This was a question on a quiz that we had.
Yeah, I know. That was like over a year ago, though.
It was a while back. Anyways, yeah, he goes to get trash from this monster, which is funny because obviously, but it's funny because he goes in and where Doof is. So, for those of you who are real big Star Wars fans or have listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know that the monster that is in A New Hope, despite only seeing this little thin stalk come up and an eye, is actually a relatively big monster. Like they're relatively big. So we come into this whole big area, and there's like a bunch of little little areas that go up, like cutouts in the floor, essentially. And all of this is underwater. And his body's underwater, and then he's just looking up with his stalk eye. And he's trying to collect trash for Doofenshmirtz. And it's funny because he goes through and he collects a couple of things. I think it's an inhaler because obviously Darth Vader has an inhaler. Not the best lungs. He grabs a hoagie roll, which was the one from earlier that Darth Vader touched. Then David, what else does he grab? Something that probably really has the huh?
That's just a guy. Put that back. No, I think Deuce line is that's just some guy. Put that back.
Yeah. So he grabs Luke, which is really like again, this is just the cleverness of them tying the original story into this movie and not missing a beat and being really clever with all. So basically they're saying that when Luke got pulled down, it was so Doof could take a look at him and say, no, that's not the right one. Because you do remember the line in New Hope was like, what happened? It's like, oh no, he let go of me and just ran away. So because Doof said no, put him back. Anyways, he gets enough trash anyways. And like the old man says, what? Who's the old man? Like the old saying goes, one man's trash is another man's bad idea, and man is due full of them. So he takes trash.
Yes, after Doof gets out of the cash room with all of the stuff, he hits the flush button, which starts the compaction.
They really need to oil their gears, grease their gears, grease their.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
because it's making
Um.
a lot of noises, screaming and crying
So
and.
I suppose a side note we should go back to is So this goes back a little bit more because there's all the stuff in the cell block before the they're in the trash compactor, but Candace, Beljeet, and Buford run across Phineas and Isabella,
Mhm. Uh,
specifically Candace.
Before we get to that, I did find it funny. Again, tying into the movie. Candace, Boji, and Buford come up when the officer is talking to Han in the cell
Yep.
block. And it's funny because the officer is real serious, obviously, like he is in the movie. But the guy next to him, he's an idiot. He was like, "Oh, I'm having a great day." you know, uh, it, the comments that they have for that character are pretty funny, and just the way that the officer treats it is funny to watch. But
Mm,
anyway, so yeah, Candace is told to watch this post, um, and in the process of standing there and watching that post, Phineas and Isabella come across her.
yeah. And so this whole sequence goes past the them escaping the trash compactor because they end up that like trench in the middle of the Death Star, not like the one that they fly through at the end, but in the middle of the Death Star, big like pit or whatever that Luke and Leia swing across.
Yeah,
Um, Candace ends up uh sliding off one of those bridges and is holding on and is about to fall.
yeah, because when
And
Doof came out of the water there, he made a big mess, so the floor was slippery, and no one had
yeah,
time to put a slip sign up.
yes, yes. And of course in the background we see Luke and Leia swing across. Um,
Yeah,
and then Phineas goes back to help her. The whole
yeah,
time Candace is trying to bust rebels, but Phineas goes back to help her.
which completely throws her off because she's like, "Wait, why are you trying to help me? We're not on the same side." And then that was unexpected. Then Phineas is ran off by a blaster shot, but it wasn't on purpose. Buford just needs the safety on his gun.
Hmm. Yeah. So by this point, uh, Han, Luke, and Leia and R2D2 have escaped. So they're not going to be able to get the Death Star plans back to R2D2 there. So they need to bring them to the Rebel base.
Mm-hmm.
But Ferb is still missing.
Ooh, what's Phineas gonna do? I mean, he can't leave his brother behind.
Well, he tells Isabella to take the Rebel plans to the Rebel base.
I mean, that could be a bad idea. She could just go back to Tatooine.
Phineas trusts her.
Oh, well, that's all you really have to do.
Yeah. Anyway, so he goes to find. He gives Isabella the plans and then goes to find Ferb.
And how
And
does
this is
he
where
find Ferb? Not how
I
does
just
he
watched this.
locate him? Not how does he locate him? How does
Oh,
he find him?
okay. I was like, did I
I
miss
asked
something?
it, and then I was like, maybe I should clarify what I mean by that.
Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
well,
In what state?
Darth Maul stayed.
Oh, okay. That.
He's got this cool Darth Maul face paint.
Yeah. And so yeah, at this point, Ferb wants Phineas to join him, but if he's not willing to join him, well, then Ferb's willing to kill him. So yeah, they have this big old battle, and I guess it should be mentioned. at some point before this, uh, something short circuits on the um the carbon freeze that Harry's in,
Yep.
and he gets out of the thing and the carbonite, and he then starts fighting Doof, and they just destroying parts of the Death Star. So they're off doing their own thing currently, and in that time, Ferb has not only transitioned all the way to the dark side, he has also rebuilt the machine for a specific purpose.
Oh
Oh, I
yes,
was letting you take it away.
well yes, turn Phineas to the dark side.
Well, yes, but also to raise up an army
Oh yeah.
of Darth.
Oh,
So,
obviously that's a given, you know.
oh,
So, you know, obviously, Phineas
we say
can't let the.
obviously a lot, but I don't know if everything like this is obvious.
Oh, don't worry, it's obvious.
It's evious. What's evious?
I said obvious.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I heard evious.
Oh.
Anyways,
But Phineas and Ferb start fighting. Apparently they're allowing modifications on their lightsabers.
what does that mean?
Well, Ferb's got a six-bladed lightsaber.
Mm-hmm. And then they both turn up a lawnmower style lightsaber with a sword sticking through it that turns into like some kind of a shield, or works as some kind of like a shield with a pointy lightsaber on the end of it.
They do a bunch of crazy stuff with lightsabers. Anyway,
Yeah, basically, yes.
so there's that. And in this whole process, well, we also have back and forth between the Larry Doof fight in this, and of course Doof ends up getting frozen in carbonite as well.
Obviously, it's human
Yeah.
nature to stand on the X.
Yeah, and whole platypus nature. But
Fair.
again, Doof can talk when he's frozen in carbonite. Not sure what that's
Yes.
about.
He's also in it sideways.
Yeah.
This is the thing. He is this way. Yeah.
So through all this, the Sithinator ends up getting blown up
because
because
this is obviously a little self-destruct, or porthole
obviously,
that should have been laser shielded, but who's got the money for that?
yeah. So
We also should mention that right before Ferb is about to annihilate Phineas, Candace steps in. She comes in there and helps and distracts Ferb and yada yada yada.
yeah.
The reason being is because she's not sure if she's on the right side anymore.
Hmm. Yeah. But they end up blowing up the Sithinator, and then Phantom Menace style, Ferb is just magically back to normal.
Yes. Yes. I mean,
Because
his face
obviously,
paint's
because
all
obviously,
too.
blowing up the MacGuffin makes everything.
I'd like a muffin too.
It's a MacGuffin, not muffin. But okay.
A muffin sounds good. Yes, I'm hungry.
Mhm.
So anyway, so Ferb's back to normal. Everyone's good, and Doof is frozen in carbonite. So everything's great, right? This is good. This is a good ending.
Well, you see, so Isabella actually got to Yavin and dropped off the plans, which they even so there's a whole bit because the two rebel techs who are uh installing R2D2 into the computer to with the plans of the Death Star.
Yeah.
They find out that the Death Star plans aren't in this droid, so they start freaking out about where it could have gone. And one of them has the bright idea of why don't we just blame Jar Jar?
Well, that wouldn't work. He's been retired for like 20 years,
Yeah, but
technically at this
still.
point. I don't know where he was at that point. They could just set a detonator or a grenade, right there.
How is that better than my idea?
I was wondering too, what specifically they were talking about doing. Were they planning on blowing themselves up? Were they planning on blowing R2 up? Were they planning on just planting a bomb and blowing up stuff so that they didn't have to deal with this specifically? Like, what exactly? Where did that plan go, and where did it come from? That text got some issues.
Anyway,
But
but
anyways, Isabella
Isabel
runs up and
runs
saves
up
the
and
day.
gives them the CD, and then so they've got the Death Star plans. They launch the attack, and so back to Phineas, Ferb, Candace, Perry, Buford, and Baljeet. They're all still on the Death Star, and they're right there, but they're right here by this window, and they see Luke fly by in his X-wing in this trench on the Death Star.
Well, obviously, I mean, he should have no problem hitting that exhaust port. I mean, it's no bigger than the size of a Womp Rat.
Oh wait,
Yeah, they probably should get out of there.
yeah.
So that's what they do. So, the good news is that the last transport is actually leaving, and Candace knows where it's at. So they're gonna run off to get on the what is it called? Public bus transportation
Yeah,
leaving the Death Star.
but it's already left. When they got there, they see it flying out.
Oh, well, hopefully they don't have too many regrets.
Well, see, Phineas has one. They
Buford
never.
does too.
Yeah. Which I will go back to mention that. See, this seems to be one of the tropes they use for Buford a lot in these in a lot of Phineas and Ferb episodes and all the specials. Is
Yeah.
they have just this random item that Buford has that keeps popping up and keeps popping up and keeps popping up. Sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't, and it's always a joke.
Yes.
Like
Yes. And his hoagie pops up again, obviously, because Darth Vader threw it away, and so now it's trash and dirty
yeah,
water and a lot of stuff, and
yeah,
he ate it.
but yeah. So
So he
it
regrets
was
eating that.
yeah. He regrets eating it. Um,
Oh,
it's
but
like
you were saying Phineas regret. Oh wait, never mind. Sorry, go ahead.
I was about to say, it's like Buford's canoe in the movie. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Uh,
it's like
so
the
they
whole movie that they drag it across the all that, and at the end of it's like, wait, everyone into the canoe! They're falling. Yeah, and it's like, well, what now? That's the joke.
yeah, I wonder how they come up with some of that stuff. It's
Yeah,
funny stuff. But anyways, you're saying that Phineas has a regret. What's his regret?
also that he never found his sister.
Found his sister. Did he lose her?
Well, she left when he was
Just a baby.
how is it? Yeah, when he was just a baby. That's right. Yeah. Well, it
Well,
turns out he found his sister.
that's crazy. I thought Ferb was a boy. Never
Oh,
know
Candace.
nowadays. Oh, well then who's Ferb?
His stepbrother.
Oh, so mom remarried?
Yeah, you see, after what happened to Dad, that's when the Death
She
Star
had
blows up.
I would say, should you add an explosion at that point in the conversation?
So yeah, they get to that point. They have pretty much that whole interaction, and then Phineas is about to mention what happened to his and Candace's dad, and then the Death Star blows up,
Yep.
and they all died.
It's a very weird ending, honestly. Like, I mean, for such a kiddie show, you'd think that they would have something a little bit more happy, a little more upbeat. But yeah, just to kill them all off in the end. I mean, I guess it makes sense because where would they be in the rest of the Star Wars movies? So it ties up all the loose ends, but it was very abrupt.
Well, you see what actually happened is that
Let's say,
Isabella comes back and saves him at the last second.
oh, hey, so weird random question, right? What about all the baristas and uh bartenders and just normal people doing their jobs on the Death Star? What about them? I mean, did they get blown up too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I know I just watched this, but I actually don't remember what the explanation they gave was.
Oh, I don't remember who got them out, but they got out on some transport. I just remember it being a joke at the end of it.
Yeah.
Which I wonder, like, if that was just referencing the thing that I don't remember what brought it up to begin with, like the conversation, but where like, you could say all you want that the first Death Star was um just a bunch of military people, um, but that the second Death Star, like there had been contractors and builders and like all that stuff. So I wonder if that was addressing that or if it was just a joke that they wanted to add in because they'd been showing people on the Death Star. Because no
Hmm.
one dies. No one dies in this. Technically. Even the officer who was getting choked by Darth Vader technically didn't die. He just dropped to his knees.
With a disturbing lack of socks.
With a disturbing lack of socks.
Yeah.
David, you know what? I understand that we had to tack on a couple things, but we have been talking longer than the movie. It's a 53-minute movie. We've been talking for over an hour. Now,
Yep. Oh, one thing that we actually didn't mention. I know we've been talking for longer than the movie and we haven't mentioned everything. Was when Isabella was on Yavin, she goes to the bar again. She's technically a kid, but whatever. And
yep.
she's talking to Han Solo, and apparently, uh, this conversation with Han is actually what convinces her to go back to save, Phineas and Ferb and Candace and all them, but also what convinces Han to go back and save Luke.
Hmm. So we get to see a little behind the scenes there.
Hmm. So it
Pretty
was all
cool.
Isabella.
It was all Isabella. Yep. They may not have been in the original film, but they were important nonetheless. Uh, like I said at the beginning of this, um, I mean, obviously, I like Phineas and Ferb. Like Phineas and Ferb is great. One of the best shows ever, um, kid or otherwise. And uh, this is Star Wars, and I love Star Wars. So combining the two is obviously going to be great, and they did a great job with this. And I really like this fact that it isn't a copy or a take on A New Hope.
Mm.
It is,
Everyone who's done a Star Wars parody does that.
yeah, this is a behind the scenes of A New Hope,
Mm.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it may. I mean, they even say it in the opening crawl. It's like none of this is canon, so don't get don't get upset. you know, and it's like, yeah, it's not canon, but you know, it takes place behind the scenes of what happens in A New Hope. And it's cool to see, hey, this is happening. Oh, this is happening. Um, they do a really good job with it. And like, I mean, I haven't watched anything Phineas and Ferb related that's bad. Uh, they are making a new season.
Mhm.
Is it out yet?
Which I know it's not out yet, but
Okay.
which they left this open for a sequel, kind of.
hmm They didn't kill them
Like,
all at the end.
they didn't kill them all at the end. Goof escapes at the end. So, or Darth. He's not Doof in this, he's Darth. But, so,
Yeah. So
nothing's gonna
fingers
happen.
crossed.
Well,
Fingers
we might
crossed.
see The Empire Strikes Back.
This is 10 years old.
hmm
So, who knows? Thing
But then
is
again,
Phineas and Ferb,
Phineas and Ferb hasn't released episodes since 2015, so
yeah, and they are making somewhat of a well, not make they're making a couple episodes or a season or something that they're releasing. Was it going to be next year?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, they are making stuff, but I don't know if Phineas and Ferb will ever really come back. I would love to see an Empire Strikes Back version of this. They did make the Candace movie, a couple years back. What was that, 2021, 22?
Yeah, yeah, something like
So
that.
there's a possibility. And to be honest, Disney, Star Wars, you need to do something right. Now, to be fair, something that me and David need to discuss whether we're going to be talking about or not. We're not going to be talking about as it comes out, but whether we're going to discuss at all is a new show that Disney is releasing and has 2 episodes out currently. I looked before I got on here because I was curious about it. Skeleton Crew. It is a Star Wars product, so you know
Mhm.
there is that.
Which
That is something Star Wars related
which,
that Disney is
uh,
making, but
I know we probably should talk about it because we talk about all things Star Wars, but honestly, my honest opinion from watching the trailer, I don't know if you watched the trailer or not. It honestly doesn't look like, honestly, okay, it doesn't even really look bad, but it doesn't look good. It just looks boring.
yeah. I feel like the very least we'll probably end up talking about it as a recap.
Mm,
In the sense of our thoughts on the series. We're definitely not doing an episode to episode breakdown of it. Uh Maybe that's bad on our part because we should do stuff like that, but it's not something we're interested in. So that's beside the point. But Star Wars needs a kickstart, and who knows? Maybe doing a Phineas and Ferb Empire Strikes Back would be something to kickstart it. Um, but anyways, great movie. If you have not seen Phineas and Ferb Star Wars, you need to go check it out. It's like I said, it's a little less than an hour long. Not much. If you love Phineas and Ferb, you're gonna love this. It's great.
mm, yeah. Anyway, um, I think that's about a wrap. So, uh,
Yep.
yeah, I don't remember the exact date, but we'll be back. I can pull it up.
Let's say.
The 6th. So we
Let's
will be back
January 6th.
January 6th for a new episode. Um, probably talking about Clone Wars season 4 or 5, whatever the next season of Clone Wars that we need to cover is.
Biggest four. But yeah. So David, with that, thank you for listening to X-Wing Radio. If you enjoyed what you listened to, please leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Leave a comment down below what you liked and what you didn't about this episode, and for topics that you'd like us to talk about. And be sure to join us January 6th with our new year. Till then, happy holidays and be safe.